morning. So in today's video, I'm going to show you how to use Stimulus.js to clear out error messages that you've streamed to your client. So let's just go through quickly what I've done. So um, I'm going to generate an error message. So I've added this successor to this activity. So this is a scheduling application where you have activities and they have successors. And an activity should only have one successor tie for each of its successors. So I don't want them to be able to add another activity link to the same activity. So I've given the user an error that says successor relationship already exists. So in my earlier example, I did not have an X to close out that message. It would just persist. So even if everything they were doing beyond that point was successful, this error message still remained. And so, some of you are familiar with using like Bootstrap to have the closing of the error messages. And so what I'm going to do is show you how to do that just with Stimulus. It's really simple and straightforward. So the desired behavior is when you click this X, it would hide out that error message. Okay. So the way that you do that, first you need to have a div tag that's enclosing your error message. Now in my earlier video, I didn't include that. So some of you may have experienced where when you streamed one error, it would work the first time and then subsequent error messages would not work. So you need to make sure that you have, the div tag that encapsulates your entire error message. And this is the ID that you were replacing in the TurboStream earlier. Okay, so the TurboStream replace actually will delete the whole entire div that it's replacing and put in with whatever you gave it. So if you don't replace it with the same div ID, it's not going to let you replace it in the future. So that's just a quick note I wanted to point out. Um, so the next thing is let's tie up our stimulus controller to the interface. And so the way that you do that is you tell it the data controller. So this is the stimulus controller that you're linking to this button. And so that's going to tie to your controller name. So in my example, I called it visibility underscore controller JS. So it's important to know that. So there's some convention there. So make sure that this ties to the name of your file underscore controller. So data controller is visibility because it's going to be handling visibility of my elements. And then what you want to do is you want to say, hey, what is the method or what's going to be ran on some sort of event? So in this case, we want a click event. We want it to call the visibility controller, and then we want it to execute the clear contents method. So I have a method or function called clear contents that will run when this is clicked. Okay. So the other thing that you need to do is you need to be able to specify what do you want to make go away. So in this case, I actually want to hide or clear the contents of this error div. So I'm actually going to delete everything that's contained within this div. And so what I've done is I've told it to clear out the activity relationship errors, which is this div. So one quick thing. So what I'm doing on this line here is I'm passing a parameter to my function, my clear contents. It's going to use this as a parameter, or really as it's going to find this value and then use it to execute. So the way that these parameters or values work is you have data hyphen visibility, so that ties to the controller name of visibility. And this is the identifier of the value. And this is just something that you add so it knows where to load that element. And of course, this is the value. So, three things you need. You need to specify the controller. You need to specify the action. You need to specify, what data you need for that action somewhere. And so that's what I've done here. Okay. So if I go over to the visibility controller, What I have is at the beginning of it, I just comment it, hey, it's a visibility controller. I do this. This is all kind of boilerplate code here. Now here, this is loading that toggle ID that I set over here. Now notice I don't call it toggle ID value. I just call it toggle ID. Okay, so over here, I have that toggle ID. So it's automatically loading this toggle ID value. And later on, I can reference that value this way. So this toggle ID value. Okay. So I'm loading that value. It's looking for the toggle ID reference. And now that's available to me. So I can reference the value of that now through this .toggle ID value. So what I've done here is I've just said document get element by ID. So what I'm passing here is the ID of this div up here. Okay. So I'm passing that in. And then I'm going to say this toggle ID.value. So it's going to find that div. And I'm going to set the inner HTML to blank. So I'm going to clear it out. So the results of that are clearing it out. Now, what you might want to do is, this is just really kind of a brute force method. It's just going to clear it out. You could maybe add some classes to have it fade or have the opacity clear out or, do some styling. But this is like the bare bones of what's happening where I'm clearing out that element. So again, really quick. So this is my error message that I would be streaming. Okay. This is a button that I have set up. And then I call the controller. I tell it on the event of clicking, I want to execute the visibility controller's method or function clear contents. And then from that, from that method, I'm going to be able to access this identifier through the toggle ID value. Okay. So I just wanted to share that with everyone and go through that process. Um, so let's go through it really quick. What you see, so the user would add some sort of bad record. You stream that error message back to them. And then this is tied up to your controller. So when I click it, it executes my controller. And then boom, it's done. So that's the process of creating a little button to clear out the contents of your error notice. Stimulus is really good in that regard. It makes it pretty straightforward without having to use a full-blown framework. So it's good for that. So anyways, I just want to share that with you, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you liked it, like my video, subscribe to my channel. I'll do little tidbits here and there. I have a few more ideas of things that I want to do. So as I build this app, I'm gonna share little things that I run across, things that might be difficult or um, might be hard to deal with, just things that I've learned and share those with you guys. Um, so anyways, I appreciate your review and hopefully you enjoyed this and I thank you. Bye.